Hello and good evening, and this is a Pwnery's breaking news special. This is also known as the War Room. Today is day 6 of the Russian incursion, illegally, I should add, into the Ukraine. And today is also the State of the Union address by the President of the United States, Joseph R. Biden. And I'm going to try to be as objective as possible, and I'm going to try not to criticize him, even though I don't agree with him politically. And I've been trying desperately to build you all in the audience an Edward R. Murrow type intro, because I idolize that man, and I have the filter to make it sound like AM shortwave radio. But I haven't been able to do so because by the time I'm done with show prep and collaborating the stories that I've collected for you throughout the day, I just don't have time. This has become my second full-time job, and I have no problem doing it, and I thoroughly enjoy doing this. And as many of you know, I'm a small fledgling channel. I'm not monetized, and I'm not looking for your money. I'm not looking for sponsorships. I'm not looking for anything. So when I've got folks in the chat like Shady Hill Homestead who thanks me for doing this, I'm incredibly appreciative of those who actually take the time out of their busy lives to listen to this program. So, that being said, we have collected a multitude of stories for you today. And generally, what I'm able to do is I'm able to give you a theme for the day of the stories that I have. And today, the theme is basically all's quiet on the Ukrainian front, I guess is a good way to put it, because most of my intel feeds, most of my stories, and most of my news information that comes into me throughout the day, it's been sort of few and far between. And so, what I think is happening is that the global media is taking its time because today is also the United States presidential State of the Union address. So, today there's been a lot of sort of humanitarian stories or, man on the street stories, which don't make for good headlines. They give you sort of an insight into the situation on the ground. And that's a good thing because sometimes it takes the person on the ground to corroborate the stories that the mainstream or the global media give you in an effort to corroborate the stories. Because let's be honest, a lot of global or cable media today is what you would consider um, corporately sponsored. So they drive a certain narrative, right? I mean, let's all be honest, right? You have Fox News, it's incredibly conservative leaning with some sort of liberal voices somewhere inside infiltrating it. You also have like CNN, which pushes a very liberal narrative. You have like the BBC, who pushes their narrative. And really strangely enough, you have Al Jazeera, who pushes their narrative, which almost seems one of the most neutral of all. And strangely enough, I do have a story today that did not show up in any other news source that came from Al Jazeera. So credit to them, because what you have with Al Jazeera is you have British journalists in Doha posting stories. So you hear the name Al Jazeera and you instantly think, oh my god, it's terrorist TV. But it's not. I will ask you to refrain from jumping to conclusions with certain aspects of that broadcast, because they will sometimes provide you stories that you won't get anywhere else. And they're British journalists. So they're they might be on the payroll, but they're not under the influence of. I guess that's the best way of doing it. I have a limited number of presenters today. Granted that we've been doing this for 6 episodes straight, and I can't expect everyone to be here every day. I know I committed to doing this for you, but I can't get commitments from everybody else to follow through. So I have a limited number of presenters today. The show might be slightly shorter today, and my audience might be slightly smaller today because some of you might actually be watching what that dopey-headed idiot in DC is telling you. And then you might follow what the response from the dopey-headed idiot is telling you. Me personally, I've watched enough of these State of the Union addresses to tell you that no matter what that person tells you, the other side is going to try to find some petulant way to rebut whatever the person in charge tells you. So, for instance, a year ago, 2 years ago today, you would have seen the State of the Union address by a president who was seeking re-election with a House Majority member who was stupid enough to stand up and tear the speech up in front of cameras. What an immature twat. I'm not even going to try to cover that one. Today, you've got sleepy, creepy, dopey-headed Uncle Joe trying to desperately tell you the State of the Union, and I'm fairly certain that there isn't a single thing that that moron can tell you today that you would believe. Nothing. But, to be fair and unbiased, the response that will follow that will obviously be slanted as well. So, take it on a grain of salt. If you're listening to me today, it's because you don't want to hear those two idiots. Fine. Either way, today was a very strange day for me, day 6, for the Russian incursion into Belarus, because the flow of information for me today was slightly different, and the confirmation of such stories was much more difficult to bring to you today. And I may have fewer bullet points than I've been able to give you for the previous 5 days, but I'm going to defer and say that probably a lot of it has to do with the fact that everyone sort of held their breath for the State of the Union. So, what you might get is a podcast today that's slightly shorter than the rest. It's not for a lack of trying, though. I've reached out to sources further out than the previous 5 episodes, just because it's so hard to get confirmation. So with that said, I'm just going to sort of give you an outline. We're going to pick up today right where I left you yesterday. So by the time the stories that I give you today actually starts at around 9 a.m. Ukrainian local time. And if it's stories that have anything to do with announcements in the United States or a very specific country, I'll try my best to give you my timeline perspective versus the time it was announced at the location it was announced at. So a lot of the previous episodes I told you Central Standard Time and Ukrainian local time. Today I'm going to give you some of those, some of Washington DC's Eastern Time, and I'm even going to reach out as far as India today. So we're going to have some shifting. It's going to be like, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego in terms of a fact-finding mission. So that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start bringing in my panel. And thankfully, now that I'm looking at it, I've got some of my regulars here. So the first person I'm going to bring in today is not my guy on the West Coast. It's going to be... Oh, I'm in the wrong channel on my own server. I'm so ashamed. Let me move into the correct channels for starters. I don't know why that happened. So my first panelist today will be Mike Nightstrike, who is a IT guy, and he works out in
South Carolina.
I'm trying to get the city right, but yes, you're in South Carolina.
Charleston,
South Carolina. He's an IT guy. He also hosts Hit or Miss Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock. He was gracious enough to have an early release today to plug today's show so he could be here. So I'm very grateful to have him here. He does hit or miss Tuesday nights 9 o'clock, and sometimes you'll get a Thursday, or Friday, Saturday, or Sunday night strike depending on what the news is or his availability, and
Or even
sometimes
Wednesday.
and even Wednesday, and sometimes you'll even see him on row calls, rants and raves. So we're glad to have you.
I'm normally on rants and raves, but sometimes the last couple weeks it just hasn't lined up with my schedule. So
Fair
you
enough.
know, things happen.
Sure.
Thanks for the invite. Thanks for letting me jump in.
Glad to have you here. And actually, you did provide quite a number of the stories today that we're going to cover. So, I mean,
Awesome.
you
I'm
helped to
glad to
fill
help.
you helped to fill in the blanks. So next, I have my guy from New England. This is Scott P79. He's sort of a tradesman. He works in the New England area, and for most of you who think of New England, who only think of Massachusetts, I take Massachusetts and work my way north and northeast. He's actually in the state of New Hampshire. So, good evening, Scott.
Evening.
I know I'm not giving you guys notice that I'm about to drag you in, so it's sort of like being abducted by aliens, but I promise you will not be probed. Anyway,
As long as we get the reach round, okay?
sure. So, anyway, my next panelist, who I thought was in Florida that I totally got wrong, is Warsaw Patriot, who is in the Midwest here with me in the Great Central Standard Time. He is of Polish descent. He has a very unique perspective on the geopolitical climate in the Ukraine and the surrounding regions. He's also a regular on what you would see on Nightstrike's Hit or Miss and Zeke Shoots. So if you haven't seen either one of those podcasts, what rock have you been hiding under? Anyway,
I
good
know,
evening to
right?
Warsaw.
Hey, what's up?
Great. And my last panelist is my greatest critic and detractor and the person I call Ammo Claus. This is Squibby. Squibload. You can find him on YouTube as Squibload. And you are still in Michigan, right?
Ah,
Oh, I gotta drag him back in. Hang on a sec. It's a permissions thing. Alright. Hopefully he's here. Anyway, last I checked, he's still in Michigan. And he's Ammo Claus. He sends me stuff that I can't get locally, so I'm grateful for that. And he's gonna bring a unique perspective as a person who previously served. And he's one of my in-chat devil's advocates. It's not to be belligerent or anything. I'm actually grateful for it because it challenges me to fact find and think beyond or outside the box. So we have him here as well. And if I remember right, he works a later night job. So if he can jump in and unmute himself, he will. But if not, it's cool. But he's here now, so that's great. So, ladies, gentlemen, viewers on YouTube, people everywhere abroad, welcome to the War Room. And this is day 6 of Russia's incursion. I know I said that before, but that was before I had pulled in my panelists. And I'm looking at my layout, and I probably have to fix the picture slightly. So give me just a second. Let me sort this out. There we go. To make sure everyone's avatar is visible. And actually, I think I lost Squib again. So
we lost Squib. but
it's fine. He's a
he's
working
busy,
man. He's
so-
got shit to do. So pardon my French, but
He'll probably be out in the chat anyways.
yeah, that's
yeah, he
perfectly
probably
fine.
will.
People
you
have
know.
shit to
Yeah.
do. So anyway, welcome to all who are here. I know you're gonna see some weird things moving around the screen, but I'm just trying to fix this so everything looks nice and pretty for the YouTube viewers later.
Right.
Sorry if your avatar is slightly cut off.
Before we start, Sean, did you see that video I sent you?
I have been absorbing everything people have sent me.
It was it was when the whole Maidan process of being invaded by Russia,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden CNN literally posts up a freaking 2 ads from one from Applebee's and some other bullshit from a beach resort.
Yes.
Stupid, man.
Somebody posted me pictures of a Russian female from OnlyFans, and I forgot her name now, but holy crap, hit me up, girl. Jesus Christ.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway, let's go ahead and get started.
Yep.
I don't feel like we have as much to cover as before because, like I said, I think the whole world was sort of on pause and wait and see because today is March 1st, 2022, and in the United States, this is Joseph R. Biden, President of the United States, and as we speak, he is issuing his State of the Onion address. That is what I belligerently call it, because the government in this country is an onion, it's full of layers, and it's going to make you cry. And that dopey-headed idiot who is running this country right now, who has driven it into the ground and made me pay $66 for a fucking tank of gas today, is trying to spin his narrative for the last year and try to tell me something that he had did today for the last year
He's
that has
back.
benefited me. Go fuck yourself, to quote. Never
Squib's
enough
back.
ammo.
I think he wants you to jump him and pull him in.
Fine. I can do that. Let me pull him into here. And now he is here. So. Anyway. I don't think we have as much to cover as we usually do. And I apologize for
What
that
we
in
do have to
advance.
cover is pretty important.
I think what we do have to cover today is quite important. If your avatar gets slightly cut off as I move the display around, my apologies. Today, I'm going to take you on a tour. And this tour begins today at 1:06 Central Standard Time in the AM. Before we had left you last for yesterday's episode. After a 2-day, quote, operational pause, weather could impact air operations to assist Ukrainians against Russia. Snow is predicted in Ukraine this week, which could impact air operations of both Russian attackers and Ukrainian defenders, and ultimately give Ukraine a slight advantage. In Kiev, light snow is predicted for Tuesday through Thursday, with snow showers predicted on Friday. Bet you didn't know I was a meteorologist. Light snow typically has visibly greater than 1/2 of a mile, while moderate snow has visibility between 1/4 and to 1/2 a mile. Why is this important? Most
You
of,
never attack Russia in the winter.
well, if we go back that far, yes, but typically the Russian ground forces haven't been very active outside of the hours of dawn and dusk.
You mean Donetsk and Luhansk?
They're not moving. They're not doing
No.
anything. Typically, in the regular daytime hours, they're moving their troops or their forces, and that doesn't
Huh.
seem to be the case currently.
You think they could be waiting for the Belarusian reinforcements?
Oh,
We
sheesh.
will get to that. We will get to that. Thankfully, I can tell you with absolute certainty that's been confirmed. So now we have we have two national agitators against one nation. But we'll get to that. We'll get there in a second. Anyway, so right now what the snow does is it actually hampers Russian Air Force operations. And I just noticed that the scrolling thing at the bottom is cut off. I apologize. I can't fix it. We're already live. Sorry. I'll fix it tomorrow, I promise. Either way, snow operation or snow is affecting the situation on the ground. Squib says he can't hear anybody in the war room. I don't understand why. You're in the room. Either way, must be the Russians, he says. I don't know. I'm sorry. When I pull people in here, you have access, so I don't know. If it doesn't work, I'll try to fix it by tomorrow, I promise. Anyway, snow, low visibility, cold weather, jet fuel doesn't like cold weather, stuff like that. So they're probably not flying as many sorties as usual, and that's going to affect the area of operations as far as it's Friday. So the whole week's pretty much a wash. I just wanted to put that out there because it was the first story I had, which actually I got yesterday.
Interesting.
I'm not a meteorologist, and if you've ever heard me on the Saturday Weekend Review chats, I always say that meteorologists are nothing more than failed political hopefuls that joined their young Democrats or young Republicans in high school and lost their first debate. And then once they gave up on that, they became meteorologists so they can lie to the public. Anyway, sorry. Next story. Do I have this? Yes, I do. I have a photo to back this up. 1:57 a.m. Central Standard Time. This would have been 9:18 a.m. Ukrainian local time. So this is the beginning of operations of day 6 in the Ukraine, and the
Oh my God.
International Criminal Court, the ICC, has officially announced, bang, right there in the picture, they will be opening investigations into Russia. The prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, Mr. Karim A.A. Khan, QC, I don't know what the QC is, I'm sorry that I forgot to look that up, decided to proceed with opening a formal investigation into the situation in Ukraine. Russian leadership is bound to appear before the International Criminal Court to be held accountable for every crime committed. So right now what you're seeing is everyone is watching what's going on. They're watching the actions of the Ukraine, they're watching the actions of the Russians, they're watching the actions of the Belarusians, the Moldovans, and any other agitator within the region, and they're building up a case of atrocities, war crimes, and what I like to call and ones. Anyone who knows anything about basketball, and one. It's a foul plus something. And right now what they're doing, the ICC, is recording all the somethings, the and somethings, and one. You are guilty of this plus this. The plus this is the most important part of it, because the charge is general, and the and ones are specific to the agitators that are being prosecuted. So this is actually quite important. Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, has basically reached out to the EU, NATO, the United States specifically, to hyper-focus on this very situation. Because should he fall, or should his nation fall, and it involves NATO response, everything that happens from that day forward will begin the trial, and everything that happened prior to that are all the and ones. So anyway, DJ Plays Nice is here now. Good evening to you. QC, Queen's Counsel, he says, which is also quality control. Funny thing is I always use the words QC for quality control at work. That's what I do. Anyway, let's move on.
But in other parts of the country, it means something.
Probably.
The world, it means something else.
But anyway, what I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to get through these quickly. Today's show might actually be rather short, just because Pwnery hasn't had dinner. And there wasn't a whole lot to share with you today. But I'm very glad that everyone's here.
You didn't fire up a set of 2015 Russian MREs?
No, unfortunately, I don't have flameless ration heaters to warm those up. And
Aren't you gonna get sick from it? That's gonna be like ptomaine poisoning.
it depends. I mean, I'm not really like tight with, Steve MRE 1989, or wait, is it Steve MRE Info 1989?
No, Steve 1989 MRE Info.
Thank you. Anyway, that guy. I'm not cool with him yet. Because let's get this out into a trade. Nice.
Nice.
I'm trying my best to do an impression of him, but that guy's legendary. And he's 10 years younger than me. Bastard. So anyway, we fast forward. We fast forward because I haven't found... I wasn't able to find the stories to fill in the gaps. And I have to give credit to my panelists here today because they were very active in finding me stories outside of my normal sources, which I will be able to present to you today. So, 5:05 a.m. Central Standard Time, which would have been 1:05 p.m. Ukrainian time. So we have already passed breakfast and lunch in Ukraine. And Zelensky had addressed the EU, and he had a speech today And his speech was so powerful that it moved his own translator, who was German, to tears. The, they stopped and they were choking on tears as they were trying to translate the message that he was trying to convey to the EU. German
Mhm.
interpreter responsible for translating Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's speech on live TV Saturday evening was so moved by its contents that she abruptly stopped before she broke down in tears.
It was a good speech.
It was a very good speech. Translating for the German news service Welt, the translator could be heard getting choked up towards the end of Zelensky's speech before she apologized. A video online showed. Russia is on the path of evil. Russia must lose its voice in the UN, said Zelensky, followed by the translator's interpretation. The EU response to this was a standing ovation that had lasted more than 60 seconds. Now,
That's
that
pretty good.
doesn't sound like much on the global stage, but think about every award ceremony where someone had accepted an award or whatever. A full 60-second ovation where people stopped what they were doing, stood up, and applauded on camera on the world stage for a full minute to where he couldn't respond, and he just waved, smiled, and walked away from the camera as a gracious leader. That's mega. He won the hearts and minds of the entire world in that one gesture.
I want to talk about him towards the end.
If you want to do it now, you're more than welcome to.
Well, you know what he did before he was president, right?
He was an actor and a comedian.
Mm-hmm. And I hate to say this, and this is just me just spitballing here. So, my opinion, guys, just opinion.
Go on.
I think the reason why Putin hates him so much is because he resembles a little bit of what Reagan was, and I think Putin sees Reagan as the man responsible for the Soviet Union's downfall.
I think you're spot on. I think you're absolutely on target here. See, when Volodymyr Zelensky took over office in the Ukraine, the world leadership thought, oh God, he's a comedian and an entertainer. This is going to be a puppet government.
And an actor.
And an actor.
Yeah.
Which is typically what your American liberal is written off as.
Mm-hmm.
However, he has pulled a Ronald Reagan. He has pulled a Vince Vaughn. He is a person who took his station as a public figure and an influencer, and he won the hearts and minds of his own people politically and patriotically. And I think what Zelensky has done is he has debuted to the world what a real leader should look like. If anything, I think Joseph R. Biden should be ashamed of himself, and he should be embarrassed.
If Zelensky was American, I'd say he's a modern version of Reagan.
Well, you know what's really funny, and I know it's going to sound terrible now, in hindsight, but once upon a time, I used to sit there and listen and watch Vladimir Putin deliver addresses. I used to watch him in photo ops, bare-chested, riding a horse, and I used to watch him jump into submarines and look at shipwrecks and things, and I thought, you know what? That's what a world leader should look like. I was on board with that up until about 3 months ago. And unfortunately, it was like, it was all pageantry, and now I know what he is. And now,
not even you can stomach the shit he's done.
right, I'm ashamed of my admiration of a guy who I thought was an awesome world leader. And because of this situation in Ukraine, I'm now brought to be aware that no, the agitator is bringing out the defender, and the defender is what a real world leader should look like. He's not trying to feed you a sob story, this Zelensky. He's just a proud and patriotic leader Nobody took him seriously when he got elected except the Ukrainian people. The rest of the world was like, you just elected a puppet, whatever. But I think every action he has done for the past 6 days, the lack of sleep, the lack of I don't even have a razor to shave my face before I address the UN. This is a man who has been strung out, working hard and trying to preserve the life of not only himself and his family, but his people and his fledgling nation. And I
Yet
know I
he
say
still goes on.
fledgling,
He keeps on fighting.
and he keeps on fighting. I'm not saying fledgling negatively. I'm saying this more as a nation struggling to survive. Because if you look at the grand scheme of things, and I know this is cliche, and I know you've probably heard this on mainstream medium, this is David versus Goliath. And David is a brilliant role model as a world leader.
Right.
I can't deny that. Like,
I just wanted to get that off my chest because I was thinking last night. I'm like, we should have said this yesterday.
sure.
I'm like, because to me, he seems like a modern analog of what Reagan would be.
If this man isn't Time Magazine's Man of the Year, then Time Magazine should just go fuck off.
I know, right?
Honestly. Like, go burn your magazine and just say, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. And I know I'm being a little bit belligerent right now. I'm trying to keep this serious and without too much stupid comedy. But if Vladimir Zelensky is not Time Magazine's Man of the Year, then nobody deserves that honor this year. That
No.
is what a world leader looks like right there. He went to the meeting, the peace talks at Pripyat yesterday. Okay, the difference between the Russian contingent and him is the Russian contingent showed up in their monkey suits. They wore suits with ties that were properly pressed and ironed, while he showed up in combat fatigues because he's been fighting for his survival for the last couple of days. That is
He and
what,
his people.
right. But I mean, he showed up as his contingent, right? That's what a world leader looks like. That's what a man who has nothing to lose looks like. This is the role model for democracy. More so than America. I
Yeah.
America couldn't how am I supposed to say this? America couldn't be so lucky to have a world leader lead this country like a man like Volodymyr Zelensky. He loves his country and he's fighting desperately to keep it. He's not making outlandish demands from NATO or the EU or the UN. He was like, I understand. I see the wood for the trees. I know you can't uh, you can't interject yourself into this conflict without becoming a named combatant. He is not stupid, okay? He's playing this game as best as he can, better than anybody I can think of. And he said, I know you can't do this, but I still need you in any capacity that you can provide. This is a guy who knows he's probably going to die. This is a man who probably knows that his nation is going to be defeated. Right now there's a convoy that's 40 miles long. Think about the length. 40 miles. This is single, double, triple stacked wide. Aid, reinforcements, military personnel, medical personnel. Everything that they need to encircle Kiev. This is Vladimir Putin today has taken all his chips, all his reserves, and he has shoved them across the table. For those of you who know what the World Poker Tour is, he is all in.
He
And
is.
strangely enough, Volodymyr Zelensky, president of Ukraine, he has an ally he didn't even see coming.
Which is?
The people in the convoy. And I'll get to that. I've got stories here. Trust me, we're gonna get to that. Volodymyr Zelensky has won the hearts and minds of the world and some of Putin's own military. And we're going to get to that. I promise you, before this show ends, we will get to that. I have got some opinions. I want you to
So,
take the anger I convey today and realize that this is how everybody should feel. I'm going to stomach and chew down and swallow and hold it in, but this is everything that everyone in the world should feel right now against Vladimir Putin. My mentor today told me that if I just tone it down a little bit, I could win more people over. But what I told him today is I don't want to tone it down. I want to represent the anger of everybody in the world who should be angry and why they should be angry, and focus that anger and put it right where it deserves to be. So we're going to get to that, I promise. This may be an abbreviated show, but it's going to be as sharp as the point of a rapier, because I'm going to stab it right through the left eye of that fucking Russian bastard. Anyway, let's move on. I don't want to sound like an asshole. Let's move on.
Well, you're a Texan, it's implied.
Now, I'm a Texan, and what I see is that the Ukraine is fighting at the Alamo right now. That's what I see.
It seems like
And
an
you're not
Alamo
going to get
situation.
any other influencer, social media douchebag, YouTuber, you name it. I've been here my whole life. I'm going to tell you, the Ukraine is fighting at the Battle of the Alamo right now. And I'm going to prove it to you. I will prove it to you. Anyway, 6 a.m. This was about 55 minutes after Zelensky's speech. This was 2 p.m. Ukrainian local time. And this is the part that starts to really piss me off. Like, I know I'm rubbing off like Walter Matthau. But you know what? The world needs Walter Matthau's. The world needs Mark Levin's. I want to be the guy who Mark Levin listens to and says, Jesus Christ, I have an illegitimate son. Because that guy, he's on point. If you don't know who Mark Levin is, start looking it up. If you are a conservative, or if you are an anti-liberal, which means you can be anything but a liberal, you need to find out who Mark Levin is. You need to sit down and you need to listen to that man. Because he shoulders the anger of the everyday man. And he does not pull his punches, and neither do I.
Doesn't he have a show on the Blaze?
He's on right now.
Really?
He's on right now on the radio. But anyway, I don't want to detract. Belarus at 2 p.m. Ukrainian National Time went on the record to publicly deny Kiev's claim that their troops have joined Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. Their official Twitter account is called Kiev Rada, and it announced that Belarusian troops invaded the Cherniv region of Ukraine. And I think I pronounced that properly. The Rada, cited by Vitaly Kirilov, spokesman for the North Territorial Defense Forces of Ukraine. He's basically reporting this as man on the street. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko denied the report in statements published by the Belarusian state news agency Belta. Lukashenko said he had no plans to invade Ukraine.
Bullshit.
But
Yeah,
the
right.
question that me, personally, am going to pose to you, the audience, is, do you believe it? Belarus just... Let's backtrack a week, okay? 7 days. Let's go back 7 days, because today is day 6 of the Russian incursion into the Ukraine. 7 days ago, Belarus, the nation, allowed 20,000 Russian troops to not only occupy their country, but to jump off from their southern border to begin their attack on Ukraine. Do you believe anything this fucker has to say?
No.
No.
No, of course not. Fuck him, right?
He's a bullshitter. He's a bullshitter.
He's a Russian puppet.
Yes.
Like, this dude could probably take a shit without even having to feel it because Putin's hand is so far up his ass that the shit just falls out. And I know this is
Environmental puppet.
graphic and dirty and disgusting, but that's what these people are. They're disgusting. Fuck them. Can you tell where I fall in this conflict? Anyway, the reason I'm sort of kind of smashing this with a Lucille, there's a Walking Dead reference for you, is because I'm going to prove to you that this asshole's a fucking liar. You're going to see it here shortly. I even have pictorial proof of it. So sit tight. Anyway, I'm going to fast forward about an hour. Now we're at 2:54 p.m. Ukrainian time. I'm not even awake yet. Pwnery is not out of bed yet. Pwnery is still shaking off a hangover at 6:54 a.m. his time. His stupid army of little Yorkshire Terriers have already started barking, and it sounds like a fox hunt in his fucking living room. The world's biggest shipping company. Let me load up the picture for you. Bing! This is one of the stories that you guys provided. Thank you so much. The world's biggest shipping company, Maersk, suspends all container shipments to Russia. Nice. Maersk will pause all Russian shipments in the wake of the country's invasion and Western sanctions. The suspension will apply to all goods, except food and medical supplies and humanitarian equipment. The shipping giant said that it was already starting to see operational delays in the global supply chain. So, let's pick this little thing apart. Maersk is one of the largest shipping companies in the world. What was that movie that Tom Hanks did with the Somali pirates? Captain something. Captain Phillips.
Captain Phelps.
Yeah. He was the captain of a Maersk container ship, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. It was captured in Somalia.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? This company, global, geopolitically global shipping company, right? So they have decided that they're going to suspend all operations to Russia, except for food and medical supplies and humanitarian equipment, right? Now, don't you find this a little weird? They're saying that they're going to suspend all shipments to Russia except for food and medical supplies and humanitarian equipment. Doesn't that imply that they're still going to supply these things to Russia?
That makes a big eye opener right there.
Right? I mean, I was very careful. I checked 7 sources for this story before I decided to share it with you guys. Now, I can't remember if Mike or Scott posted this for me, but I put it on here because I wanted to share it with you. And I'm looking at this, and I corroborate it with 6 other sources. And from what I can tell, what they're saying is,
I think it was Scott.
okay, well, whoever. I'm not placing blame or anything. I'm just saying I'm glad you brought it to my attention. But the fact of the matter is Maersk is taking a neutral stance. But the way they worded their response was, we're stopping all shipments to Russia. Fuck Russia. Except if they need medical supplies and food or humanitarian aid. You are aiding and abetting the agitator of a global conflict, you assholes. That's all I'm saying. Now, if you want to renege that, if you want to backpedal right into the wall, despite the fact that you're not wearing your crash helmet, you're more than welcome to. I will be glad to share your story tomorrow. But right now, you're fucking assholes. Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on. I mean, shit, they left Captain Phillips to die too, so are we surprised?
No, not really.
All right. Hashtag fuck Maersk. I'm sorry. I could be totally wrong on this, okay? I'm just saying that this is what I've seen. They're
This is
not.
the information
They're
we
not doing
have
either.
as of this moment.
As of this moment, they're taking this weak attempt at a neutral stance.
Right.
Squibb says they're not aiding them. I will take your word for it. I know they're a global shipping company. I think I know what they're trying to say. It's just the way that they worded it. It makes one quirk an eyebrow. Let's be honest. Either way, I'm not going to affect Maersk's global stock prices, but if I do, sweet. But if I don't, whatever. I probably won't. Who the fuck am I, right? I'm just this little guy with a stupid channel. Anyway, let's see. Where did I leave off? We are at now 7:05 a.m. Now I'm awake. Pwnery is awake. He's pissed off. He wants to punt 9 Yorkies over his fence. Yes, I have 9 Yorkies. I have 3 for sale. If you're in the Texas area and you want a dog, hit me up. They're 8 weeks old. I need 3 of them out of my life.
You should sell 7 of them.
If I could, I would. But for now, I have 3 Yorkie puppies. They're all males. If you want one, hit me up. I'll deliver within reason. Either way.
Moving on.
7:05 a.m. Central Standard Time, which is 3:05 Ukrainian time. Okay? Now, this is to give you an idea of how slow the updates were coming, because we're already at 3 o'clock Ukraine time, right?
Yeah, it's weird.
Just a bit. Dozens of UN diplomats stand up and walk out. This was during Russian foreign minister's public address to the UN.
Gee, I wonder why.
Sergey Lavrov's speech to the UN and human rights councils prompted a mass walkout. As soon as the UN president turns over the floor to Lavrov, dozens of diplomats stand up and leave the meeting chamber without saying a word. Lavrov said he was, quote, compelled to make his address by video. He wasn't even in the room. He was sitting in front of a freaking webcam, probably worse than the one I've got. Otherwise, I'd show you my
He's
face.
afraid of what would have happened if he had gone in there himself.
No. See, this is the thing. Russia's now trying to play the victim. Lavrov said that he felt he was compelled to make his address by video because the EU restricted his, quote, freedom of movement. I can't address you people personally because you won't let me. I'm the victim. Feel bad for me. Here's my GoFundMe.
Let me get up and walk away from this.
Go fund yourself. Sorry. I always wanted to say that.
All right, Mr. South Park. Move on.
No, that was more like Never Enough Ammo's going, go fund yourself.
No, really.
Really?
South Park did it too.
Oh, he did they?
Yes.
Sorry, the last South Park I saw was about NFTs, and
It was when they created a crowdfunding company and they called it the Washington Redskins.
oh, okay, I think I know what that was about. I got you. I'm with you now. All right, let's go ahead and fast forward because I'm hungry. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
8 o'clock, 8:12 a.m. CST, Central Standard Time. Pwnery lives in Texas. Central Standard Time is life. This is about the time that I hit the snooze alarm with my Colt Python for the 2nd time of the day. Yes, Pwnery finally got a Colt Python.
Ooh, what about the Anaconda?
Shh, don't spoil that. Future episode. So this is 4:12 p.m. Ukrainian local time, after what they call a 2-day operational pause. That's the nomenclature that they're using. I like to call it waiting for a massive wave of reinforcements. Russian state media warns of attacks on Kiev. Did I say that right? I'm trying really hard not to say it the Russian way. Kiev.
Kiev.
Russian.
Kiev. It's
Kiev.
Kiev.
No, that's the way the Russians say it. Don't
That's
you
the
dare.
Russians. It's the Russians.
Don't you
It's
dare.
Kiev.
You as a Polish representative should be offended by the word Kiev.
Everybody I've heard has always said it's Kiev. Now, if
I-
it's Kiev, then I apologize.
No, I hate to say that, but I agree with you. That's the way I learned it too. But
So was I. So have I.
they've separated from that. It's Kiev. Kiev.
Kyiv.
Kyiv. KY. Sorry. Sorry.
John,
Sorry.
You're too amused.
The attacks will supposedly target. Oh, wait. Did I read that part out? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Russian state media warns of attacks on Kiev. Russian state-aligned media has issued warnings from the defense ministry that its military will carry out imminent attacks in Kiev. The attacks will supposedly target the Security Services of Ukraine, the SBU, and the 72nd Main Center of Psychological Special Operations, PSO. PSYOPs. The Defense Ministry claims this will help, quote, suppress information attacks against Russia. I'm sorry, the Ukrainians aren't attacking you through cyber. Anonymous is. I still have my Guy Fawkes mask on the headboard of my fucking bed. I'm still a B-tard from 2002. Just saying.
Which I'm telling you, you really shouldn't go to those cesspools.
Hashtag founding member of Anonymous. Anyway, I don't want to expand on that, despite the fact that I keep getting texted. You sure you don't want in on this? Let's move on. The thing that I found really strange was everyone keeps spinning this as operational pause. No, the Russians are desperately waiting for reinforcements. They're out of gas. They're eating 8-year-old MREs. They need help. That's what an operational pause is.
They're stealing food and supplies from elsewhere.
No, they militarily are what the United States is dealing with politically. They're being led by idiots. So let's move on.
Then they're questioning it, why they're even there then.
I'll get to that. I've got a story for you that you, sir, personally would probably love. 8:14 a.m. This is 2 minutes after I smashed my alarm clock.
Yeah.
If you work for was it West Clocks? I need a sponsorship because I've destroyed so much of your shit. 8:14 a.m., 2 minutes after the previous story, 4:14 p.m. Ukrainian local time. The EU, after have done the standing ovation for Volodymyr Zelensky, they have come to a decision. They have immediately accepted the Ukraine's application and has commenced a special admissions procedure to integrate the country. This is what the Eastern European media sources have reported. The EU will also look to switch Ukraine over to its power grid in the coming weeks. It's going to take some time. Further integrating the country into European structure. So, the question is, if the EU, the European Union, can fast-track a nation's application into it, then what the fuck is NATO's excuse? Suddenly adding them into NATO, which what they should have done 8 weeks ago, when the request was desperately put out there, would set up Article 5 protections. You're going to hear me and Mike say that a lot tonight. Admitting them into NATO, fast-tracking them in, would have set them up for Article 5 protections and declare Russia and the Federation of Russia and Vladimir Putin directly as an enemy combatant to NATO.
Hold up.
Go ahead.
Maybe part of inducting them into NATO required them to be in the European Union.
Well, then I guess we'll know tomorrow, then, won't we?
Yeah.
While this may escalate the war, you're going to love this.
As if it wasn't already escalated to Belarus.
You're going to love this. While this may escalate the war on our side of this, it also directly plays into Putin's tactic of de-escalation through escalation. So, the EU and NATO can literally take page 1 of the United States DNC playbook, preemptively accuse the other side of which you are guilty of yourself. That's what the liberals do in the United States. They're guilty of something, they're going to accuse the other side of doing it first. And then it's going to muddy the waters, and the media's going to have a field day going through the ocean of sea monkeys until they get to the actual fish that's hiding in the cloud of sea monkeys. Right?
Mm.
So, the fact of the matter is, Putin, he thinks, the Duma thinks that they can de-escalate a situation by escalating the situation, right? They
Work
think
like that.
they think they can get NATO and the EU to stand down by unzipping their pants and flipping out their dick. It's what they always do. Look, we have
Well-
nukes.
Well, then someone's gonna shoot their dick off.
Right. Okay, so Squib is saying that you do not have to be a member of the EU in order to be a member of NATO. I think I categorically agree with him, because the
I
EU
was-
came much later.
I was just saying, you know,
I know you're
at this point-
you're theorizing.
I was theorizing. I
That's
wasn't saying that's how it was.
No, that's
I was
fine.
theorizing.
Because if you think like a politician in the EU or in NATO, they could use that as an excuse, saying, "Well, if you're in the EU, we can fast track you," right? So what he's saying is true. What you're theorizing is probable.
It's sound.
It's probable. NATO can just say, "Look, if you're in the EU, we'll get you in quicker because you jumped through that hoop." Because the EU came much later. So I'm with you.
Right.
I agree with both of you. Squib's right. EU came
Oh,
way
I know
later.
he is. I know
It's
he is.
not a
I'm not arguing
prerequisite.
with Squibman whatsoever. I was
But
just,
you're right
I
too.
I was theorizing because it makes more sense.
No, I'm with you on this. I agree with this. NATO can always look for an excuse to prolong something. This is the
Mhm.
perfect example of that. Saying, hey, well, you aren't in the EU, so we don't have to fast track shit. But what you're saying is, hey, maybe getting the EU would help that along. I've got no issue with that. I think the math checks out. If anybody disagrees in this panel, speak now or forever hold your peace, because I think it makes sense. Cool. All right, so let's move on.
All right. I wasn't expecting that, but hey, you know.
No, I think we're all on the same page here, and I think that's why this panel works so well. It's because
Yeah.
we're sensible and we're like-minded, and I know I talk a lot, but if any of you disagreed with me, I'm sure you would have spoke up by now.
I've tried to jump in a bit more because I don't want you to just be here alone.
No, thank you for doing that. Like, I want a dissenting opinion. I want somebody to challenge me to think. So, if we're all in agreement, then we can move on. I agree
Yeah.
with Squib in the chat. I agree with Nightstrike, who says that maybe that's a prerequisite. And I want to say that, Mr. Knives, get off your dead ass and make Discord work. I see you in the chat. I'm glad you're here, but make your shit work. I'm
We'll give you
calling you
chocolate.
out, or I'm going to have turtle soup. Let's move
All right, Shredder, we'll knock it off.
Let's move on. Tonight I dine on turtle soup. Anyway. Let's see.
Not
Let's
Japanese,
move
just
forward.
Korean.
So about half an hour passes throughout today's news. Man, I really didn't think we were going to be able to go this long, but so far we're doing good.
We're doing good.
We're doing good. About half an hour passes. It's 8:43 Central Standard Time. Pwnery is finally awake. I am munching on an apple fritter and drinking a pint-sized cup of coffee, the first of two before I head off to work.
You don't drink a whole pot?
No, I have to share.
Ah.
I share with my dogs.
Well,
Anyway.
you got
No,
nine.
Mr. Knives. Station pause. Mr. Knives, Gun Channels has been dead for, 3 years? Get off your dead ass and get it to work. That would have worked 3 months ago. This has been 3 fucking years. If you need
Yeah.
help, I will be glad to help you. You know my number. Text me. I will fix you. If you need hardware, I will send it to you. I'm an IT guy. I have spare parts.
I have.
Tell me
spare
what
parts.
you need and I'll get it to you. Miss you. I miss you, bro. I miss you. So whatever you need, you tell me. You email me. I'll get it to you. Anyway, let's move on. Not gay for knives. Besides, my Latina girlfriend would kill me. And I should probably introduce you, the two of you.
Hashtag we love knives.
Hashtag I love Roxanne. Anyway. Anyway, 843. British government has openly raised the option. Now, I love this story. The British government has openly raised the option of kicking Russia from the UN Security Council.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, wow, they're really going at it.
Spokesman for the British Prime Minister Boris Johnson said the option was, quote, among all options on the table, according to the AFP. Britain is the first permanent Security Council member to raise the option. The UN held an emergency special session this week after Russia used its veto power last week to block a motion to condemn its actions against Ukraine. So the question is, what's the holdup? First of all, good on you, Great Britain, for growing a pair of balls and standing up for something. Because this is the first time that I can remember you doing that since Winston Churchill groveled for the West's help.
Since World War II.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to imply anything else. Winston
No.
Churchill was a halfie. Your prime minister currently is a halfie. And I like the guy. He's awesome. Boris Johnson is a fucking badass. I wish he
He's
would be
pretty
a
cool.
bit more assertive.
We all do.
I think we all do. Bad hair, great guy.
Yeah.
Anyway,
He's really
Sounds
got
like-
to do something about
go
his
ahead.
hair.
If you want to add on to this, go right ahead.
I think Boris says the British Donald Trump.
Well, he's a halfie. He's half American.
He's half American?
Yes,
Yeah.
he's a halfie.
I never knew
He's-
that.
Yeah, he's the modern Winston Churchill of our time. This is the thing. This is the thing that the world needed. I mean, if you think about it, Trump was FDR, but on the right party, and Boris Johnson is Winston Churchill, figuratively speaking. He wasn't Lord of the Admiralty, but he was influential. He was a public figure. He was also an automotive writer. Fun fact.
Really?
Yeah. He wrote for an automotive magazine for years. He actually did one of the very first. He did one of the very first automotive reviews. I think it was of the Ferrari Enzo, but don't quote me on that. It's been so long. I have the video. It's been a long time.
No, it's good. It's good.
Anyway, Fine Ape says now when you say you're gonna fix knives, he's like, I'm only asking out of concern for knives. Listen, knives go dull. Knives need to be sharpened. I need to focus that turtle so he can be Leonardo instead of being blunt like Donatello.
Ooh.
Let's move on.
Ooh.
Donatello's my favorite turtle, by the way.
Yes, we know.
Because he's analytical and he's a cynical asshole. And he's ingenious. And he's probably the only one of the four turtles who would have had a chance to bang April. Let's move on. Let's move on before this gets
Okay, we're
creepy.
getting down a rabbit hole.
Let's get
Go.
yeah. Let's move on because this is creepy. Okay, I have a new picture for you guys. 10:48 a.m., which is a quarter to 7 p.m. Ukrainian time. This is when dusk is kicking in. This is when the Russian Air Force starts to spin up its engines, start fueling their jets, and start warming up things. This is when intel starts to kick in, and they start to tell you what you're going to do for the night. Okay.
And Russians attack.
When Russians attack. Should I use the Russian attack theme song someday?
Maybe someday.
Do-do-do-do-do-do.
I've got it. I'll say
Yeah.
that next time. Anyway, I'm going to tell you this picture right here. Ukrainian army confirmed captures a Russian TOS-1A MRL. What is the significance of the
Can we show
picture
the
you're
picture?
looking at right now? First thing I
Oh.
can tell you is the chassis of that tank. It looks an awful lot like a T-72 Dolly Parton
It is.
or a T-90 because that's an upgraded version, right?
Well, T90 is just a T72
Upgraded
BU.
too, right. Because
Yeah.
the Dolly Parton had bigger wheel arches, basically,
Right. No, it's a T72. It's either a T72
or a
frame or it's a
T90 frame.
T90.
Similar hull. But what you're looking at on top of it is not a tank turret. What you're looking at is the TOS-1A. And what makes this significant? Well, if you had been paying attention to the last couple of episodes, I would have told you that... Sorry, I just got sidetracked by what Fineape was saying. I will address that in a second. What I had told you is a couple of days ago that the Russians had accused the Ukrainians of using Willie Pete rounds. And I know that doesn't mean a whole lot to everybody, but if anybody who knows anything about the military, the Willie Pete round is a nickname for white phosphorus rounds. And those have been banned by the Geneva Convention because when those go off and you get hit by them, there is a burn you can't shake off. It is excruciatingly painful. Strangely enough, I think the first time I was exposed to knowledge of the Willie Pete round was an episode of MASH. And I know that sounds funny, but there was an episode of MASH where Hawkeye had to learn how to remove fragments of phosphorus rounds from wounded soldiers. And in that episode, he had described the barbarity of what it is, what it does, and how difficult it is to extract them and save the life of the person affected by it. That's how bad it is. MASH was a TV series, for those of you who might be younger than 30. It was a TV series that had been out longer, more than twice the length of the war it was written about. And it was very cleverly done because at the time that it was released, it was supposed to be an open criticism to the Vietnam War. But it was a story about the Korean War. And the series ran over twice as long as the actual Korean War ran. It was one of the highest rated TV series. I think ABC was the one who actually produced it. It was the highest rated TV series of its time. The season finale was so impactful that it was a movie. And I think it was called Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen. And it's one of the most iconic season finales in history. It was... Well, I'm not going to mince my word. It was fucking incredible. And when I was younger and I first watched it, I didn't really react to it. As I got into my 30s, I became more analytical. And the last time I watched it, I was already beginning to enter into my 40s, and it put me in tears. Let's put it that way. You can try to be macho and fucking whatever, but as you get older, you start to realize, you start to see the wood for the trees. And the story and the finale of Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen, if you don't get moved to tears by the end of that series, then you don't have a heart. I'm sorry. Anyway, the reason I brought that up was because the same thing is going on right now in the Ukraine. There are atrocities being levied against a sovereign nation, and there are accusations being thrown by the agitator that can't be proven. They're saying that white phosphorus rounds are being fired by the Ukrainians, but in the same breath, they're saying those rounds are manufactured by Russia. So the accuser is saying, they're using those rounds. We know because we make them. Fuck out of here. Now, the Ukrainian army, as of today, captured the delivery system right there in front of your screen if you're watching this. That delivers the very thing that shouldn't be used against humanity. Even the United States press corps says they can't verify it. Guess what? Little old Pwnery out in Texas just showed you the proof. There's the vehicle. They caught it. That's what launches that weapon. Grow a pair of balls and admit that you saw it. There it is. You saw it. Let's move on. Not even 20 minutes later. Not even 20 minutes later.
What happened? What happened?
I'm going to show you.
Show us. We need to know.
Hang on, I got to make sure I got the right picture. Oh, here it is. Okay. Here's the picture. This here that I'm about to show you, that I'm showing you, is a photo of the same intersection. Before, top, bottom, after. Undeniable. Just look at the buildings, look at the light pole. Ray Charles can see that. He's dead. Stevie Wonder can see that. He's blind.
He's still alive.
He's blind. He can see that. 7:03
That's the
p.m. Ukrainian time, local. Ukrainian English teacher. Okay? Not political, not military. In an interview, confirms by sharing photos that Russian forces have been exclusively aiming at civilians in Kharkiv for the past several days. They've been bombing since morning only districts where civilian people live.
Yeah.
Where there are no military forces, where there are no military assets. The person who responded, or who did this interview, was named Julia Leiser. Julia Leiser. This whole area of town that I'm showing you is of just local flats. That's just a different way of saying apartments. Supermarkets and small shops. And I know some of you are saying, why am I telling you what you already know? But not everybody knows that flats is apartments. I'm trying to bring this around so everybody knows, okay? I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. But this is an area of local flats, apartments, supermarkets, and small shops. This is where cafes are. This is where people live and conduct life, okay? They're bombing civilians.
Yep.
We have a lot of people. A lot of people have died on these streets. A lot of people are now hurt. This photo was released at 7:03 Ukrainian local time. That was 11:03 local time for me in the morning. 2.5 hours later, this photo and this story was confirmed by Senator Ben Sasse. He saw it, he confirmed it, he corroborated it. He has the Pentagon, he has military intelligence to corroborate this. I'm just a guy on YouTube, but I got a senator who has the CIA and military intelligence to corroborate it. And that's
If you go back and watch some of, what is it, France 24's live news feed of this stuff,
yeah.
they actually had a footage of that building on the left
Yes.
from, further to the left. Basically the whole building where they
Sure.
were looking at it from one angle.
From that
The
building.
The bomb, that rocket hit and just like killed everything.
Yeah. Warsaw had to go to bed. I was wondering why he dropped out. Good night to you, sir. We will see
Good
you
night, Warsaw.
Pwnery's only got 2 hours of sleep a night for the last 6 days. And what's really funny is I'm not Ukrainian, and I don't claim to be Ukrainian, but I take this very seriously. And
I do
so
too.
I'm tired, and I still work my 9 to 5, and I'm still trying to buy an RPK. Just letting you guys know.
Why don't you just do what I'm gonna do and just buy an AK, put wood furniture on it, and put the
Pwnery's in the
yellow,
market for an RPK.
the yellow and the blue
I will.
blue tape
That was
over
my idea, sir.
it. It wasn't your idea. The Ukrainians did it
Bullshit.
first.
Bullshit. I told you.
They did it first.
Bullshit. I told you. I'm building an RPK. I'm going to put the Ukrainian flag on it in Cerakote. Anyway. And I'm going to use Zeneco furniture as a real fuck you to Russia.
Oh my god!
Anyway.
Don't.
I'm going to do it. Anyway. Let's move on. I don't want
Moving
to.
on.
Let's move on because we're making good progress here.
We're almost done.
Yes. No. God, no. We're only halfway through.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I know. I didn't think we had enough, but we're halfway through. So for those of you
All right.
watching, if you need a minute, go take a leak, go grab your popcorn, or in my case,
Stretch your legs.
go pour yourself another glass of bourbon because Pwnery's been drinking. Probably obvious. Let's move on. All
You
right.
keep going. I'm gonna go get us some water. I'll be right
Go
back.
ahead. Go ahead. The reason I posted that picture and told you this story is that the Ukraine needed unequivocal proof, sorry, that Russia was committing atrocities. That vehicle, I'll show it to you again, just so you know, this vehicle here. I'm showing this to you because this is the delivery system of the very weapon that they are accusing Russia of using, that the Pentagon, at the time this photo was released, said that they couldn't confirm. Now you all see it. You confirm it for yourself. That's all I'm saying. This is the vacuum bomb. This is a thermobaric weapon. This is a weapon that detonates as an implosion to suck all the air out of the area, ignite it, and create a thermal explosion so hot that it incinerates everything within its cone. We like to call them bunker busters. Sound familiar? Because we use them too. Anyway, let's move on. About, let's see, 15 minutes later? Yeah. So I did get a couple of bing, 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 because I have an RSS feed of news like this, and I have some sources, both from anonymous and from actual media sources, both of which have equal parity in my estimation. 11:03 a.m. Central Standard Time, 7:03. So now we are starting to enter dusk in the Ukraine. And for those of you who've been paying attention to this broadcast for the last 6 days, dusk is when the Russian infantry start to wake up, warm up, and begin to start planning their operations for night ops. Because they don't work at night. They just work at dawn and dusk, by and large. Night ops is usually done by the Russian Air Force because apparently they know how to use night vision, but the infantry doesn't. Maybe that has to do with something. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that they're a bunch of conscripts. Maybe that has something to do with the fact that they're using scraps and leftovers of Russian surplus. Or maybe it's the fact that their shit just doesn't work.
All right, I'm back.
I apologize. I'm probably just being a bit too belligerent. Either way. A Ukrainian English teacher. Oh no, I already read that. Sorry. My mistake.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm sorry. I combined the two stories. That's where I messed up. So anyway, we talked about the Ukrainian thermobaric bombs. We talked about the TOS-1A that was captured. These were all collaborated. Sorry, I sort of just forgot to scroll down. My mistake. The next story I have for you is a lot of meat and a lot of potatoes, actually. And I'm going to show you the picture now. You're probably wondering why you're seeing Hindi on your screen with a bunch of candles and a picture of an Indian guy. And
Yeah, I
if you
thought they
read,
were neutral. Or, excuse me,
Eh,
I abstain.
they have been very quiet, and we'll get to this. Trust me, we'll get to this. But you're probably wondering why I'm showing you this picture. You can read the caption. I'm not going to insult your intelligence, but I'm going to read you the whole story because this came to me. I'm not sure if any of you guys brought this to me. It's something brought this up, and I looked it up, and I thought it was very important. And I will explain why it's important here shortly. 11:28 a.m. Central Standard Time. Now this is where it gets weird. 10:58 p.m. India Standard Time. Okay? They're 23 hours ahead of me. Right? Was it 23 hours? Or is it 13 hours? Either way, it's nighttime in India. Indian student killed in Russian shelling of Ukraine's Kharkiv.
Yep.
Ministry of External Affairs Arindam Bagchi wrote, "With profound sorrow, we confirm that an Indian student lost his life in shelling in Kharkiv this morning. The ministry is in touch with his family. We convey our deepest condolences to the family." Prime Minister, okay? This is how important this is. The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, sorry, I said that wrong. Narendra Modi spoke to the father of Indian student Naveen Shekarapa. I gotta get the last name right. Gyanagodar. So his name is Naveen Shekarapa Gyanagodar. I didn't put the accent in because I really don't do a very good Hindi accent. I don't want to insult them.
I could, but I don't feel it's necessary. It's needed.
He died in a shelling in war-hit Ukraine. Official sources said Modi offered his heartfelt condolences to the family following the tragedy. Manoj Rahan, commissioner, said, "We have confirmed from MEA the unfortunate demise of Naveen Shekarapa in Ukraine. He was from Shalagiri in Haveri." So this is in India. He's a student in India going and getting his formal education abroad in Ukraine, and he was killed today. Why did I bring this particular story up? You're probably wondering. Maybe if you paid attention to yesterday or the day before's episode, you'll understand. India is geopolitically scared shitless right now. They're currently in the process of modernizing their military, especially their navy in the form of submarines and aircraft carriers. And they cannot stomach involving itself in a global conflict yet. They have the numbers of soldiers or military personnel, but they're still building up their inventory, right? They're what you would call an emerging sorry, I'm not saying this right. They're an emerging world power, okay? They have a very small upper class. They have a huge poverty class. And they have an emerging middle class. Because a lot of these people are taking military service or they're seeking professional work. One fun fact is that the number one export in the nation of India is doctors. So
I thought it was telemarketers.
No. Well, okay, I get the joke. And you're sort of right. The call centers and stuff, you're correct. However, the biggest export in India is physicians.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying this is a joke. They are an emerging power for what's a country that's the second highest populated country in the world. So it's no joke. It's absolutely no joke. Anyway, they can't stomach the idea of a global conflict yet because they're not militarily ready for it. Fair enough, right? Furthermore, we're getting unbiased reports from a completely different country on the situation on the ground. Like, these guys have no stake in any of this. They're keeping
it's
their
weird.
heads down. They're like, yo, don't notice us, okay? We know we're between that part of the world and this part of the world. Russia's above us and China's to the east of us. Just leave us alone. We're not ready for this yet. We don't want this smoke, is what they're saying, right? So we're getting a very unique perspective from the media of a country who doesn't want to be on the radar yet. This is very important. If you want biased media, check the countries involved. If you want unbiased media, check the countries that aren't involved. This is India. This is CNN. Sorry, I had to do that joke. Anyway, sorry.
That's bad, Sean. That's
I know, but I'm trying to throw in some things to break the tension because
Yeah,
I
I
know
know.
that I come off really hot and heavy. I've been told as much, and I need to sort of back down a bit. Anyway, a number of Indians currently are still stranded in Kharkiv. That's the second largest populated city in Ukraine, and other cities in conflict zones. So they're spreading out a bit. Quote, similar action is also being undertaken by our ambassadors. So India does have ambassadors in the country. Every major country does, right? So
Right.
similar action is being undertaken by our ambassadors in both in Russia and Ukraine. On Tuesday morning, the Indian embassy urged all citizens, including students, to leave Ukraine's capital, Kiev, urgently today by trains or any other means available. Now, does that sound familiar to you? Because a week ago, the United States issued the same declaration for its people in the embassies of both Russia and Ukraine. Okay? India is doing the same thing. The government on Monday said that reports to
That's
evacuate its citizens from Ukraine have been hampered by, quote, adverse conditions
Uh-huh.
at the borders. You mean Russian agitators? Just call them out, dude. Don't be afraid.
Yeah, call 'em out.
Hang on. Where did I leave that? Adverse conditions at the borders. But it is also offered to help evacuate citizens of neighboring and other developing countries stranded there. Kharkiv Mayor Igor Igor Terekov said that Russian troops continue to shell the city and have begun to blow up power substations. Terekov said that on Ukrainian TV channels that the shelling of Kharkiv continues. More than 87 residential houses have been damaged. There are people who are trapped. We are now eliminating the blockages, meaning that there have been structural collapses where people have been trapped and they're trying desperately to get them out before they suffocate. The invaders have begun to blow up the substations that supply us with electricity. This is sort of kind of what we talked about in day 2 and 3, where Russia starts to try to cripple the infrastructure. Light,
Yeah.
gas, power, food, logistics. Right?
Yep.
That's what they're talking about. The invaders have begun to blow up the substations that supply the second largest city in Ukraine with its electricity. Some districts of Kharkiv are already disconnected from electricity, and accordingly, there are problems with water and heat supply. Now, bear in mind geographically where they are compared to most of the United States. It's snowing in Ukraine. It is still very winter in Ukraine.
Yeah.
I gave you the meteorological report and stories about an hour earlier. It's cold. They have no power. They have no heat. And they're surrounded, and they're trying to be starved out. Sound familiar? Britain, World War II, U-boat campaign. This is why I can tell you that what happened, and is what is happening in Kharkiv today, is genocide. It's slow going, but they're all going to die. That's what he's saying. Not an operation, but a war to destroy the people. This is a crime against the whole world, Terekov said. This is Ukrainska Pravda reporting. So this is the Ukrainian local news reporting and corroborating what the Indian global news reported that started off from one student citizen getting killed. This is the one piece that fell over from, okay, some of you who watch gun channels from past, there was a, G-Webs used to use this analogy that you could be the snowflake that starts the avalanche, right? And I'm not saying snowflake as a derogatory term. You could be that last piece that starts the avalanche that gets something moving. This guy, this one man, this one guy, Navin Shekarapa, he could be the one piece that actually makes India take a stance. This could be the avalanche that that part of the world needs to realize the gravity of the situation. That's all I'm saying. I'm not implicating this. I'm not trying to instigate this. But this was big enough that this story made global news that I could find it to share it with you. That's all I'm saying. Let's move on. So that was a big story. And about another 12 or 13 minutes later, this would have been 11:42 a.m. I haven't even had lunch yet at work. I don't eat lunch until 2 o'clock. 11:42 a.m. Central Standard Time, which would have been 5:42 p.m. UK British time. So this news is from England. And I have a picture for you too. Let me find it in just a sec. Here it is. There you go. This is a satellite photo for you. Belarusian troops enter the Ukraine as President Lukashenko's army joins Russian invasion. Pause. I'm going to stop right here. Okay? This is 11:42 a.m. What did we talk about earlier? Six a.m. Okay? 6 a.m. Was that 5 hours earlier? Belarus categorically denies that they're doing this. 5 hours and 42 minutes after they denied it, Belarusian troops caught on satellite photo right there. Exhibit A. Okay? I have proven to you that Russia's using thermobaric weapons. I am proving to you right now that Belarus are co-conspirators to a Ukrainian invasion. There's the photo.
They're crossing the border.
They're crossing the fucking border. Belarusian troops enter Ukraine as President Lukashenko's army joins the Russian invasion. Belarus has reportedly joined the invasion of Ukraine with President Alexander Lukashenko, also known as Vladimir Putin's bitch, or lapdog, depending on how you want to look at this, but he's still a bitch, thought to have entered the Cherniv region of the north of the country on Tuesday morning. As of right now, there's still 2 hours of Tuesday left for me. 1 hour for Nightstrike. It's already Wednesday in Ukraine, but whatever.
Alrighty, it's been Wednesday for a little while.
It's Wednesday over there for a little while. It's like 4 a.m. No, sorry, 6 a.m. 6 a.m. over there right now. I digress. Belarusian soldiers have stepped into Ukrainian soil, according to a statement from the Ukrainian parliament. You're going to make me pronounce this. The Verkhovna Rada. I do that pretty good, huh? The Verkhovna Rada. The Ukrainian parliament added that the movement of Belarusian troops was confirmed by Vitaly Kirillov, the spokesman for the North Territorial Defense Forces. What does this mean? That means that Belarus are a bunch of fucking liars and should be held accountable. There are now 2 belligerent nations attacking Ukraine, and technically technically NATO is powerless to stop it. You have two sovereign nations as agitators in an illegal incursion to a sovereign nation. Have you noticed that I haven't even mentioned Moldova? Moldova hosted 9,000 Russian troops on day one of the Ukrainian invasion. Moldova is also intaking Ukrainian refugees as we speak. Why would they do that? Why would you intake the people that you're attacking? How confusing, right? Let's move on. It's one of those food for thought kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm at work. It's the heat of the day. It's the middle of the day. I'm dealing with trucks and convoys and deliveries and my coworker George, if you listen to the lobby throughout the week. So we
He's
fast
pretty cool.
forward to 1:45 p.m. just before Pwnery gets to have lunch, because he's the last person who gets to eat at the shop. 9:45 p.m. Ukrainian local time. Repeated reports. Now this is the best part, and I've tried desperately to find sources for this. I've only read the story from 5 sources, but I still don't have video evidence. So I will ask you to take this with a grain of salt. But from what I'm about to tell you, I can tell you that you can probably believe what I'm about to tell you. Reports that the convoy to Kiev, the 40-mile long convoy stretching from Antonov Airport to the capital, this is the remainder of the Russian reserves pushed in. He's gone all in. He's pushed all his chips across the table. Okay? Reports are that soldiers in that convoy are puncturing their own fuel tanks, draining the fuel out of their vehicles to stop the progress of the push into the city. The morale of that reinforcement force is at an all-time low. They don't want to be there. They don't want to go there. Now, if you remember yesterday, I shared you a story about Ukrainian troops near Kharkiv seizing 2 T-90A main battle tanks. Here's the catch. The soldiers dropped the tanks. They didn't blow them up. They left them fully armed. They just ran out of gas. Russians have no fight. They don't want to be there. Most of the troops are conscripts. Most of them were lied to. Oh, it's just a training exercise. All of a sudden, hey, training's over, you're going into Ukraine. What? Yeah, you're going to kill your brothers and sisters. What?
Al posted something earlier saying that that some of them knew that they were going. He said he heard this earlier today. Phones from the Russians captured, and KIA had texted the family that showed they knew they were going, and why.
I would say that the officer corps probably were privy to that information, but most of the conscripts had to sign a gag order, basically saying that they're not allowed to call their families or tell them where they're going. So it's kind of take it as a grain of salt. If you're an
Right.
officer, maybe you know. If you're a grunt, you don't know shit. It's just a paycheck. According to them. Whatever.
Well, I've
Anyway.
heard reports that Russian soldiers are getting just as sick of the whole situation as the Ukrainians are.
Well, if you've been lied to after being told that Ukraine is full of your brothers and sisters, and then all of a sudden you got to go kill your brothers and sisters, that's very demoralizing, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it would be like President Joseph R. Biden saying that the Canadians are dirty little snowbacks with flippy top heads and we need to eradicate them. Yes, I know that sounds very vulgar, and I'm sorry if that seems racist. But I'm just trying to paint a picture here for you. If Joseph R. Biden told the United States today that the Canadians, I'm going to repeat this, are a bunch of snowback capitulating little sissies that need to be eradicated, And we need to take up arms and walk across the border and murder all of them en masse without question, with absolute authority and no question. That is what the Russian conscripts are being told right now. Or
I would
that what
agree
they
with
were
you if they were all named Trudeau.
or what they were told before they signed on the dotted line to say that they weren't going to contact their families and
Right.
they didn't know where they were going, and all of a sudden were ordered to attack their quote brothers and sisters in Crimea and the Ukraine.
We
Okay?
don't even want them there.
That is the absolute worst example of misinformation that I can think of.
I know.
They were lied to. Anyway, we got to move on. I'm getting hungry.
All right. Oh, who are you?
Yeah. And Pwnery's out of bourbon. So anyway,
Surprise, surprise.
sorry. We're going to fast forward about 30 minutes.
Okay.
We're now at 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time for me. It is now 3:15 Eastern Standard Time in Washington, D.C. Kansas Republican Senator Roger Marshall has introduced legislation today, Tuesday, that calls on the White House to ban all Russian imports into the United States. The bill, which could specifically block the importation of petroleum and petroleum products from Russia, has been backed by Energy Commission GOP leader Senator John Barrasso, along with at least 7 other Republicans in the upper chamber. Now, you probably heard that and go, wait a minute, we're buying Russian oil? Some of you might be saying that. Some of you might know that, yes, we have been buying 12 million barrels of Russian oil a month. And you're going, what the fuck? Why are we funding their war by buying their oil? And I'm going to clear the record. And I was probably right now where you are right now, I was 3 days ago. But I'm trying to let cooler heads prevail, and I tried to reason this out. And I learned about this. The U.S. government is not buying Russian oil. Let's just get that out of the way right now. They're not doing it. The private sector, oil companies and refinery companies, they're the ones buying Russian oil because they're contractually obligated to do so. So this bill will block the transactions from the private sector from doing that, so the government doesn't take the hit and the accusation of doing that. That's all this story's about. Okay? This is the one time I'm going to say that Washington had nothing to do with this. And I corroborated this. Okay? I'm not going to confirm that Washington does this. They don't do it. The private sector does this. And the private sector only did this because they're locked in contracts and they were worried about international law and whatever. Damages. Fuck it. Whatever you want to call it. That happened. Anyway, Roger Marshall puts up a bill saying ban it all so the private sector can't do it. In a way that looks bad. In a way it looks great. Because he just gave the private sector a way out, which means they can't be held financially liable for breach of contract. So I think that everybody on our side of this is probably fully for this. We will get updates on this within the next day or two. And I suspect that this is going to pass. But I just wanted to put it out in the ether for you, because there's a lot of people, including me 3 days ago, who thought, why the fuck are we buying Russian oil? We, as a government, is not. Private sector, by contract. So just bite your tongue, wait a day or two, this will clarify itself, and then you'll understand what's going on. And to be perfectly fair, let me put this into perspective. We buy 12 million barrels of Russian oil a month, but the United States, we pump 18 million barrels of oil a day. So it's not that much. It's a token gesture in the first place. Let's move on. Pwnery's hungry. I'm gonna keep banging that drum too. 7 minutes later, so it's now 2:22 Central Standard Time. Pwnery is building machines and handling returns at work. He's probably just finished with the lunch he didn't even want to eat because it was probably gross. Today's lunch was pretty crappy.
Boo.
No, my lunch today was crap. I'm gonna be honest.
I'm saying boo.
3:22 Eastern Standard Time. So we're still dealing with Washington's bullshit.
Hey, it's Mike's time.
Yeah, it's your time. A waste of effort. You sure you want to put your name on this?
Maybe backtrack.
You want to hold off? Okay.
Let's
President
see.
Biden is set to authorize the release of 30 million barrels of oil from the strategic reserves as concerns grow that Russia's invasion of Ukraine will continue to impact energy prices. Quote, Russia's actions in Ukraine have resulted in energy supply shortages, of significant scope and duration and have already caused a substantial increase in oil prices worldwide.
You think?
That threatens to slow United States economic growth at this critical point in our economic recovery, says a White House memorandum.
No, Pwnery's not Skynet.
I'm not
yet.
Skynet. I'm just sharing you what I can find from every corner of the country or the world. Anyway, Biden authorized 30 million barrels of oil to be released from the U.S. strategic oil reserves. Okay? This is the strategic oil reserves for the military to use in the event of a shortage should they need it. Okay? This is not supposed to be used for the United States consumption. Why am I saying that? Why am I pointing this out? Because statistically, well, let me point it out this way first. How many of you today went to fill up your tank?
I've got my fuel. I don't need to fill up right now.
The day before the 2020 election, Pwnery got in his 2003 Retro Thunderbird, which is powered by a 4-liter Ford and Jaguar V8 engine that requires premium gasoline of 93 octane. And Pwnery filled his tank the day before the election from empty to full, 93 octane. $17 to fill his tank. I'm not complaining. That was a good day. Yesterday, Pwnery filled his tank with the same 93 octane, and he paid $64 for the same grade of fuel. Okay?
Poor Pwnery.
14 and a half months later, he paid $64 for a tank of gas that he originally paid $17 for the day before the election. So you would think that I have a vested interest in what the fuck is going on with oil prices. You would also wonder why 30 million barrels of oil sounds like a huge amount. And Biden's helping us try to drive down energy prices so I don't have to pay $64 for a tank of gas. But let me set the record straight, my fellow motherfuckers. The United States, on average, uses 18.2 million barrels of oil per day. He released 30 million barrels of oil. He won't even cover 40 hours of U.S. oil consumption. 40 hours. A day plus some. 30 million barrels. We use 18.2 million barrels a day. It's a drop in the bucket. It's a token gesture. He's playing on the stupidity of the average cow who watches TV and thinks, we're going to be saved. You ain't going to get shit. Wake the fuck up. This happened once before. Did you see your oil prices drop the last time he hit the oil reserves? No, it's still climbing, isn't it? Let me put this into perspective. Crude oil barrel prices today spiked $104 a barrel. On average, the United States is paying $3.60 a gallon for regular. Okay? 2022, $104 a barrel, 360 regular. 2004, U.S. oil speculator market drove the price of the barrel of oil to $150 a barrel. Average price of gas for regular back then, $3.49. Why is it that we're only at 2/3 at the maximum and we're paying more? Keep voting Democrat. Keep
Oh, we got a
voting for
Russian
those.
bot out there.
I got it. I'm on top of it. Olast esto picoye. Olav esto picoye. Anyway, took care of it. Anyway, yeah, we're at 66% of the peak of oil prices, and yet here we are paying more than we did in 2004. Now remember,
It's messed up.
2004, 2005, that killed the Ford Excursion. Pwnery wanted a Ford Excursion. Pwnery can't have one now. Pwnery's not going to pay $30,000 for an 18-year-old clapped-out Excursion with a 7.3 diesel. No. Oh, no.
That was the giant SUV, right?
Yeah. I'd like to have one. I'd like to build one, put like an 8-inch lift and 38-inch tires on it, and be able to take it to the beach, putt around in
And
the
you know what you
sand,
should put in it that you've
sleep
gone
in the
on
back.
and on and on to me about?
Go on.
You should put an LS in it.
No. I want the diesel one.
Oh.
7.3 Power Stroke diesel.
All right.
Anyway, let's move on. Pwnery's
We,
hungry.
we got off on car talk. Sorry.
Well, we
about
got to
that.
get there. No, one day we'll have a car talk too. Mr. Knives just did the yeah, but you know what? We're not doing CSI Miami, so shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing. I'm teasing.
Oh,
I'm
man.
glad you're here,
You're
Knives.
awful.
I'm glad you're here. Get Discord to work, you lazy fuck.
I mean, if I can get it to work, I mean.
You can get it to work. All right. Anyway, 32 minutes later, we're now at 2:54 Central Standard Time, and we're starting to wind down. Okay, just letting you know now, we're starting to wind down. And this was a very good bit of news. Apple released a statement at 2:54 Central Standard Time, outlining their response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, including a pause, a complete suspension of all sales of hardware, Apple Pay, and the App Store to Russia. Quote, "We are deeply concerned about the Russian invasion of Ukraine and stand with all of the people who are suffering as a result of the violence. We are supporting humanitarian efforts, providing aid for the unfolding refugee crisis, and doing all we can to support our teams in the region," the company said Tuesday. "We've taken a number of actions in response to the invasion. We've paused all product sales in Russia. Last week, we stopped all exports of our sales channel in the country. Apple Pay and all other services have been limited. RT News Network and Sputnik News are no longer available for download from the App Store outside of Russia. And we've disabled both traffic and live incidents in Apple Maps and Ukraine as a safety and precautionary measure for Ukrainian citizens. We will continue to evaluate the situation and are in communication with relevant governments on the actions we are taking. We join all those around the world who are calling for peace." This is Apple's statement. For those of you who don't know, there are 5 U.S. auto companies who followed suit. There are 7 oil companies globally who have followed suit. You know who else followed suit? Netflix, Amazon Prime Video. They all followed suit. Do you know what that means to a guy like me? There was a show in Russia called Epidemia. It was known as To the Lake in America. I don't get to watch season 2 because Vladimir Putin is a fucking asshole. If you don't know what To the Lake is, I feel sorry for you because they probably pulled it down already. But what a great show that was. It was like Fallout meets The Walking Dead in Russia. It was so good. Season 2 was coming. Now it's banned. Whatever. Let's move on. I'm not hurt, grit and teeth. We're going to fast forward. It is now 5:05. Pwnery just got off of work. He's happy. He left the office. He doesn't have to work for the Chicoms now. He gets to go home. He gets to go see his 9 Yorkshire Terriers. 3 of which are for sale. So if you're in the Texas area and you want a puppy, hit me up. I told my mentor that I was going to mention that, but he told me I should go ahead and say it. I have Yorkshire Terrier puppies. I have 3 for sale. If you want one, hit me up. Email in the link in the description below. If you're in the Texas area. If you're within 2 hours, I'll work with you. Anyway, 3:05 a.m. Wednesday Ukrainian time. So we're touching into day 7. This is going to be
We're
a week
there.
into the conflict now. Okay? And I think... Oh no, we got plenty. We still got more stories. You're going to love this one. I have a picture for you too. Bing! Do you know who that dashing young man is on the right? Not the guy on the left, because that's just Neil Cavuto. He always sounds like he's got a stick of butter stuck in his throat. He just got over COVID, though, so we're glad to have him back as a media personality. But the guy on the right, he's the one that's the most important to you. And never mind that the Dow Industrial Averages and the NASDAQ and the S&P are in the fucking gutter for a guy like me who's a day trader looking at that. Fuck. Pwnery can't have an RPK today because of that market.
Neither can Nightstrike.
I'm not bitter.
Oh, yes, you are.
No,
I
I'm
am
leaning on my crypto now, but I'm not bitter. I just said the word crypto, and I'm pretty sure HVS just popped a boner. Anyway, the guy on the right, you may not recognize him in that photo because he's in fatigues, and he's in a chair, and he looks tired. He's exhausted. That dude looks beat. Do you know who he is? I'll tell you who he is. He is Ukrainian tennis star, world ranked. He has decided to end his professional tennis career temporarily. Pretty selfless. Do you see LeBron James quitting what he's doing for a living and stopping being a liberal fucking douchebag and picking up a rifle and going to help those in Ukraine? No. No. Because there's only one person who LeBron James looks after, himself. He is now a Los Angeles liberal fucking douche. Which is why I haven't been watching the NBA for the last 3 years. Because it's full of liberal fucking douchebags. And those who aren't liberal douchebags, like, for instance, Kyrie Irving, who decided, I don't need your stupid bullshit vaccine. He has been blacklisted from the league. He's not allowed to play. Anyway. This man's name is Sergey Stakovsky. Sorry, I had stumbled that. He's 36-year-old. He's best known for his defeat of Roger Federer in Wimbledon in 2013. He was still a professional tennis player. His world ranking has sort of dropped as he's gotten older. He has joined his country's reserve forces. He joins boxers and heavyweight champion of the world and mayor of Kiev, Vasily Lomachenko. Sorry, I got that wrong. Sorry. The mayor is Vladimir Klitschko. But what blew my mind is boxers Vasily Lomachenko. He's a welterweight champion, former welterweight champion. He fights out of he trains in Los Angeles, California, but he's from Ukraine. He was a superstar for years. Very charismatic, very easy to get along with. Dude's cool as shit. Vasily Lomachenko and current heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk, who has to defend his titles against the guy he beat, British former champion Anthony Joshua. That's coming up in months. That might be postponed because both Vasily Lomachenko and Alexander Usyk, they quit what they were doing to volunteer to defend their country. Along with this guy, Sergey Stakovsky, tennis player. So you have a tennis star and two boxing champions from Ukraine dropping everything to go help defend their country with the mayor of Kiev, who was also an undefeated 15-year heavyweight champion, Vladimir Klitschko, fighting alongside him and his twin brother, Vasily Klitschko. I think it's Vasily. It's Vladimir and... I think it's Vasily and Vladimir Klitschko. I could be wrong. I've had a lot to drink. Anyway, the Klitschko brothers, the tennis star, Vasily Lomachenko, Alexander Usyk, all of them dropped what the fuck they were doing to defend their country. Because apparently they have a country that doesn't have some bullshit NFA. And they're handing out fucking full auto Kalashnikovs to the citizenry to defend the country. Okay? They're getting support from a government here that is led by Democrats who will take your guns away that are semi-auto, but allow
arm terrorists
full
with
auto
auto.
fucking weapons to the Ukraine. Think about that. If we had no NFA and this conflict ends, could you imagine how epic the AK market would be for us for milsurps? Okay, I'm starting to sound a bit biased, but still.
All right, stop that.
No. I want my RPK. I want my RPD. I want my AK. I want non-NFA items. Because the government who is supporting the country who's giving them out to the citizenry will not let my citizenry in my country have them.
Seems wrong.
Why is that?
1938, I believe.
Go fuck yourself. Anyway, point is, let me finish the story. So yeah, Vasily Lomachenko and Alexander Usyk have also signed up to fight for their country. Sergey Stakovsky retired from tennis following the Australian Open in January. So he retired this year. And now finds himself in Kiev preparing for war. He was quoted as saying, "It is horrible leaving my wife and children behind," which means they don't live there. But he went back to his country out of patriotic duty. "My kids do not understand war. They think I am at a tournament. It is extremely hard on his wife, Anfisa. There will be no military training," but he told the BBC, "I know how to use a gun. If I have to, I will." He admitted the level of fear rose as he crossed the border into his home state of Ukraine, and he knew that there was no way back. But you see, the people and the level of cooperation, he said, they're putting down obstacles for the Russians. They work non-stop to beat the fear. I guess that's the best way of doing it. Hundreds of his fellow tennis players across the world have sent messages of support, praising him for his courage. So here's the thing. He mentioned that Um, he had mentioned that the people of Ukraine are putting down obstacles for the Russians. This is true. There was a story that was released today that the Russians are coming and the Ukrainians are building roadblocks and checkpoints everywhere, and they don't have the concrete bollards to do so. And there was a very famous photo in the northern part of Kiev where they put a grand piano out in the middle of the street to stop the troops. How fucking cool is that? These people will not stop. They'll put whatever they have to stop them. Think of the video of the guy who offered to tow a tank that ran out of gas. Do you need a tow? I can take you back to Russia. Now here's the cool part. The Russian soldiers who were actually assigned to that tank, they didn't kill the dude who asked that. They laughed. They don't want to be there. If you were an angry combatant and some asshole pulls up to you saying, "Do you want me to tow you back to where you came from?" I'm sorry. If I'm a Russian and I'm angry, I'd have dish-cut that motherfucker into paste. But I didn't do that, did I? No. I laughed. Because I get the joke. I don't want to be here. And you're making light of my situation, and you're not being a dick about it. You're just saying, "I'll take you home." I get the sarcasm, but you're not being a dick. You're just like, "I'll tow you home." If I was that guy, I'd be like, "Yo, fuck the tank. Take me home. I don't want to do this shit anymore." If you take that on top of the story of the 40 fucking mile long convoy that's supposed to help reinforce, encircle, and starve Kiev, and those guys are puncturing their tanks to deliberately stop their advance, you have to kind of think that nobody really wants to be there. They're all serving an asshole who lied to them. And what are the Ukrainian people saying? What are the Ukrainian women in these interviews in bomb shelters saying? Kill that motherfucker. Where's he? Hiding in a fucking mountain in the Urals. Sitting in a 30-foot long table, berating and chastising his two generals who are lying to him about how effective they are. This is a war where there's only one man versus the entire world. Why is the entire world afraid of one man? How many people do you think in the Russian military would drop what they're doing, turn around and go, "Fuck this, I'm going home, that asshole is dead," if someone had turned Putin's head into a canoe? My dad served at the end of the Korean War, all of the Vietnam War, and retired officially in 1981. He had served for 27 years in the military, 27-ish. Got to see 3 global conflicts. He was sitting at the table when one of the South Korean president's own generals stood up and executed him in front of him. Grow a pair of fucking balls, you assholes in Russia, and put a fucking bullet in that shithead's skull. And put an end to this. Grow a set of balls and end this. You have the power. Let's move on. Bet you didn't expect
It's getting
that.
dark here.
I got 2 more stories for you. We're going to get through these quickly. I'm hungry. It is now 5:08. 3 minutes after the previous story I just told you. Pwnery's driving in his car. He's heading home. He's thinking about that bottle of Old Granddad, which I have just laid waste to. But he's thinking about this on his drive home. He has to feed 9 dogs. He has to take care of an 86-year-old father who's got dementia, who can barely walk. He's got to take care of a 70-year-old mother who's also got dementia. And feed his dogs. And feed himself, which he still hasn't done yet at the moment that I'm talking to you right now. Chechen Hit Squad. I'm going to show you a picture. This is an old meme. I found it funny. I hope you do too. Bang. Feed me Chechens. Feed me Chechens. Chechen hit squad ordered to kill Zelensky reported eliminated. A Chechen hit squad was reportedly sent to Ukraine in an attempt to assassinate Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Was eliminated by Ukrainian forces. Security of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, Alexei Danilov, told Ukrainian television that Chechen forces that, quote, came to kill our president were eliminated. According to reporting from the New York Post, the Ukrainian official said 2 Chechen units were sent to Ukraine, with one being captured and the other being engaged by members of Ukrainian armed forces and neutralized. Which means they were filled the fuck in. And the picture is Feed Me Chechens, and the caption I put next to this story was, serves you right, bitch. So theoretically, there are now 3 nations agitators against the Ukraine. 3. 3.
Technically, Chechnya is part of Russia.
Fuck them.
Yeah, I
3
know.
3 groups versus 1. Fuck them. Let's move on. We're running out of time.
You don't say.
Yeah. An hour later, 6:10 p.m., this is after Pwnery had dealt with his dogs and his mom and his delusional dad who couldn't even remember what he had for breakfast this morning. Story confirms, I have a picture for you here, it's very sad. Story confirms that Russia has bombed and destroyed Babin Yar, a Holocaust memorial site to commemorate the death of 30,000 Jews during World War II. That's the picture. That's the explosion right there. Somebody caught the actual moment. Look at the timestamp. Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. The source is from Twitter. It's an individual picture. It's an individual person who caught the picture. This is not a network news agency with a bias or a corporate sponsor. This is a dude who just happened to be standing there who took the picture at just the right moment. Why would they do that? It's just a memorial. Why would the Russians destroy a Holocaust memorial? Why would they do that? Who the fuck does that? Oh, that's right. Wait a minute. We've been taking down Civil War memorials and every other memorial known to fucking man for the last 2 years. Never mind. Let's move on.
Right?
I delivered it that way because I want you to think about that.
Remember, Putin's calling Zelensky and his whole regime Nazis.
Ha. I'm going to use that as a closing thought. Let me get through the last story. I don't have a picture for you, so I apologize. 6:59 p.m. This is, 31 minutes before the State of the Onion address that I refused to watch, and apparently all of you have refused to watch, and I applaud you for doing so, because that means you folks are of higher intelligence, and there's nothing that balding, dopey-headed dipshit that's running this country could say to convince you that anything he says is fucking trustworthy. He has accomplished nothing. But I digress. President Biden at 6:59 p.m., which is 7:59 p.m. DC time, right before he's got to hop in his plane and take his binky and snort another line of coke so he has enough energy to get through this speech tonight, announced that he will ban all Russian aircraft in American airspace during the State of the Union address. Well, happy fucking day. Congratulations. You have been 24 hours later than the EU and Canada, who decided to do the same fucking thing. It's the least we can do since we refused to make Ukraine a no-fly zone. Now, I understand why you said no to the no-fly zone. I get it. If you say no, and you don't do the no-fly zone, you don't get Americans involved where they have to directly attack the Russians. I'm with you. I understand that. I get it. I'm with you. Why did you take so long to block our own American airspace? The fuck? So anyway,
Probably because he had to kick out the UN delegates that were caught spying earlier this week.
maybe. I don't know. Anyway, this concludes what I have for you for today for stories for the day. I had a point that I was going to bring up earlier, and I can't remember what the hell I was going to tell you.
That's why you should stop drinking.
Probably, but I did stop an hour ago. I don't know. What was I going to tell you guys? I don't know.
I don't know either.
All I know is this is a situation where this whole thing could have ended 3 days ago, 4 days ago, maybe even 8 weeks ago. Had we just had the balls to say no. That's all we had to do. We had to say no. And we didn't do it. And now we have allowed the enemy to try to de-escalate through escalation. And that makes no sense to me. Why? How? We could have ended this. And I'm going to ask this question again for the second night in a row. There is a 40-mile long convoy of Russians who don't even want to be there. And they're stuck on a road where they can only run single file. Sometimes they can go double wide. There's mountains to one side and valleys to the other. And I have to ask, why has this convoy not become the next chapter of the highway of death? And the answer is simple. The Ukrainians don't have what they need to do it. If I was Volodymyr Zelensky, if by some miracle somebody links him to the last minutes of this video, I would tell you to mobilize every single air asset you have left and load it with as many munitions, bombs, cluster bombs, napalm. I don't fucking care. You load it with whatever you can. You put drop tanks on those planes and you fill them to the brim. I don't care if they can barely make stall speed, and you hit the front and the back of that convoy and you create the world's most disgusting kill box, and you eradicate every single bit of reinforcement that fucking Russian asshole has left, and take away all of his motivation to declare war on a sovereign state and nuke the fuck out of it, and make that bastard turn around and go, I don't want this smoke. If you have to lose half your Air Force to do it, and you wipe it out, I would happily say that the lives of a couple of airmen that you will posthumously give the Hero of the Ukrainian Army, or the Hero of Ukraine award to save the lives of your 40 million people from a long-term war, that's a price worth paying. And I think you'll find soldiers and you will find pilots that are willing to take that risk, that they're not going to land and come home to see their kids, to save the kids and the lives of 40 million of your people. You fucking do it, because you're running out of time. They're 7 minutes from your fucking border. Grow a set and make it happen. That's what a leader does. And with that, I'm going to play this. And I'm going to thank you all for taking the time to skip the State of the Union address and the bullshit response that comes afterwards. regardless of who's in power, and listening to me rant for a couple of hours. And
Yeah.
if you're new to my channel, welcome. And if you're a regular here, welcome back. And if you know my panelists, support them. Go see Hit or Miss Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock, who's graciously enough to cut short to come here.
Yep.
Anyway, this is the War Room. This was day 6. We will be back tomorrow. We will keep doing this until this conflict is over. And hopefully, I'll have less news to give to you for day 7. So thank you for watching, and good night.